Welcome to The Walk-In, a podcast where doors stay open and stories unfold one conversation at a time. Hosted by Christopher Michael Sean, author, poet, actor, and lifelong student of people and purpose. Here, you're more than just a listener. You're part of the room, part of the story. In every episode, someone sits down, breathes deep, and shares what drives them, what keeps them moving, and what keeps them dreaming. This is a space for dreamers, doers, and those still finding their way. So pull up a chair, pour something warm, and let's take a walk into the soul.
Hey guys, before we get into the meat of the episode, I just wanted to say I hope you all had an amazing holiday season, a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for walking in with me. We've been doing so well. Thank you guys for 500 streams and downloads. We've got a good number of followers on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube Podcasts. Thank you guys so much for the love and the encouragement, and I hope that we can continue to awaken the American dream together. And I hope you guys enjoy the episode. So you've got like 488 followers on TikTok. You says you've only been recording since October. That is not just good growth. That's incredible growth. I've been running the podcast since June. Every Monday, 2 p.m. is an episode. And it's been consistent. It's been resilient as heck. And we have, not the best following, but people do listen. We have about 20 followers. We have almost 500 streams and downloads. Now that number I'm proud of. We have over 75 hours of consumption for just the last 90 days, which is incredible. That means people are listening. That means people are coming back to it. But anyways, enough about me. No, I think your growth is incredible. I mean, just a couple of months with that many followers. I love the theme of your episodes where you're coming in and you're giving not just the youth, but really anybody who steps into your circle, knowledge and wisdom and encouragement. So going back to October, whenever you first started this trend of yours, what was the inspiration for it? At what point did you sit down with yourself and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna do this?
Yeah. So also thank you for the compliments on the growth. I really have no basis on what's good or what's not. I actually wasn't a big TikTok user, and I was just kind of a doom scroller on like the Instagram and like YouTube channels. And so I really have no basis. You see other people on TikTok with like thousands of followers, and it's hard. It's easy to compare yourself. So thank you for the encouragement there. What inspired me, actually, because I'm not like a big TikTok user, was I also had these aspirations, being 37, a little bit out of touch as far as like what people are into nowadays. Just I've always wanted to be like some kind of a writer, but I like wanted to do stuff that was. I just think that they, kind of get cast to the side sometimes, and I knew that people weren't really reading much, and so I was like, every avenue that I went down, it boiled down to needing some kind of social media presence. And as much as I fought it, and I was just like, the only way you can get people to come to some like a blog or something like that is by getting in their face in a social media presence, putting your face out there. And so I just kind of got tired of getting in my own way, and I sat down, and it took me like 2 hours of mental in like just getting the courage up to do it because I was
Yeah,
terrified.
mental preparation.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I sat there for like 2 hours just being like, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And if you're on my page and you watch the first video, it's garbage compared to the quick
Oh,
little quips of wisdom.
now I have to go back into your archives and go take a look at that. No,
Yeah.
listen, man, I'm the same exact way for sure. I mean, the channel originally, the TikTok account that I'm using was originally for like my gaming account, and then I switched it over to the podcast. So if you look past, you can see you can see a couple of my open mic nights. I think I still have those on there for like comedy stuff, and like I might still have a few of my auditions posted. But yeah, originally it wasn't even supposed to be for the podcast. The now I like what you said about like you had to sit there and have mental preparation for 2 hours because the first step is always the scariest. And of
Hmm.
course I'm probably preaching to the choir with everything I say here, but the first step is always the scariest, right? So I don't know if you know my story, my personal story that I talked about in the podcast before, but I'm originally from Oklahoma, and after a divorce, like me and my friend were supposed to move to New York City together. He had like $400,000 from a lawsuit with Pepsi that was going to get us a good apartment, and we were going to use like a little bit of money to get like his music career going, my acting career going, and that's how we were going to start it up. He ended up falling in love with some girl in upstate New York. I never heard from him again. So I ended up moving to New York solo. The scariest thing was, do I go to New York without him anyways, or do I stay in Oklahoma? The scariest step was the first one, which was driving halfway across the country, 2,000 miles, and restarting with nothing. And I lied to my friends, I lied to my family because I told them all I had a place to stay in New York, but I was sleeping in my car for 3 months, saving up money. So the first step is always the most terrifying. The first
Hmm.
step was me leaving Oklahoma, me getting in that car, saying goodbye to people. And so yeah, yeah, and okay, posting on TikTok is not as dramatic as moving halfway across the country on a whim, but it's still symbolic. It's still meaningful because it's a world that you're not familiar with. It's a world I'm not familiar with either, if I'm honest. So
Yeah.
stepping into that, stepping out of your comfort zone, and that's going to be inspiring for people to see like, oh hey, like there are good things coming if I just step out of my comfort zone. And something you said too about literally like getting out of your own way, oh my goodness, I love that. So like put that on a t-shirt. That's incredible. Getting out of
Yeah.
your own way. That's awesome. Because yeah, a lot of the times you are your greatest enemy, and comparison is the thief of joy. You look at all of these huge TikTokers, these huge accounts, and that's why these coaches make so much money. Like you mentioned, they make so much money because yeah, they're able to DM you and go, "Hey, do you want 1 million followers? Give us money
Hmm.
and you'll be fine." It's like it's like something Ziello said in a previous episode. You don't need to invest money. Like, yeah, it might help to have a coach, but you don't need to. You can do it your own. You can do it yourself. And another thing you said, consistency is so important. Because yeah, if I post every Monday at 2 p.m. and I'm posting and I'm posting and I'm posting, I might not be super popular for years to come. But years to come, people are going to go, hey, this guy's been posting every Monday. Like, that's incredible, you know? And my goal isn't to be super popular. My goal is, like I said, it's to encourage people, to motivate people to follow their dreams. And I know that sounds rough, but it's, I feel like a lot of the times people are given a pair of headphones and they're told, listen, don't speak. Well, my goal is to give them a microphone and say, shout, use your voice, give your voice a dream, or give your dreams
Yeah.
a voice. I'm so tired. But
Yeah, I
anyways,
did a uh like one of my earlier ones, I talked about that a little bit where I was like, you know, we we should listen to experts on things. We should, the coaches that are out there, whether it's a life coach, a TikTok coach, or whatever, they have really good advice. But you I think sometimes we surrender our own ability to the experts. And if what we think we should do is not what the experts are saying, we will abandon our own intuition or knowledge or our own wisdom. And I think that subconsciously that makes us just devalue ourselves in a way that we don't even realize is happening. And so like you need to, like we were talking before the recording, like they go hand in hand. Like my content is more towards like self-help and digging yourself out of emotional holes or whatever you find yourself in, and yours is about chasing your dreams, but you have to dig yourself out of that hole in order to find the courage to chase your dreams. Like I'm sure even your story about going to New York alone and leaving Oklahoma, like you did a ton of things before that that gave you the confidence. Even if you were afraid, you did it. And if you were being held down by, emotional burdens, or like I talk a lot about people pleasing, I think that manifests in a way that a lot of people just don't even realize. So yeah, being able to get out of your own way, trust yourself, and uh, that is going to lead you to being able to chase your dreams.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that like a lot of what we do here, it does have to do with self-help. I think that that's like one of the underlying like little secrets of the podcast is like, yeah, I'm hopeful that like, people listen and they're like, hey, this person went through that, this person went through this, and like I'm going through stuff too, and like I can get through this. And people pleasing is such a thing. I do agree because man, I've dealt with that for years, and I feel like part of me still deals with that. And there's something that I was watching The Amazing Digital Circus. I've been obsessed with that lately. It's like a little cartoon series, but it's kind of dark. I don't know if you've ever seen like Five Nights at Freddy's, but it's kind of like that. It's really dark. It's got
Mm-hmm.
a lot of cool lore. But anyways, enough with the nerdy stuff. Something that one of the characters says is you feel like you always have to have the weight of the world on your shoulders, but you should take care of you too. Like relationships need space, relationships need breathing room, like whether it's a friendship or whatever, like you have to take care of you too. You don't have to always go out and take care of everybody else as well. And I feel like for people pleasers, it's really hard to be like, oh, well, if I'm not helping other people, I'm failing. And that's something that they talk about in the show is like the girl, her name is Ragatha. She's like, if I'm not helping other people, I feel like I failed them. It's like, no, but you have to help yourself too, because you're kind of, you're important, you know? And yeah, I think that's awesome. Like every video that you post, it's like as a formal people pleaser, and I'm like, man, what advice does this guy have today? I'm so excited to
Well,
listen to it.
yeah, people pleasing is tricky because it that's also it's like a trauma response masking as generosity. But if you're not also taking care of yourself, you're draining yourself. And I think that's where people get stuck is they're like, well, no, I'm kind, I'm helpful, I'm generous. But a lot of times it will like turn into, you're giving to get. And then that's causing issues in relationships, or you're just draining yourself. And then you don't have time to pursue your own dreams and stuff.
Hmm.
And so I think by highlighting like people pleasing as something to fix is going to help people. And I think that's where like I kind of just fell into that niche when I started making these. I didn't really know where I was going, and then that intro that I do came out, and it was like, oh, actually, and it started to resonate, and then things
Hmm.
started to like take off a little bit more. And it was encouraging because I know from my own experience trying to work through people pleasing and seeing the negative effects that it has on like relationships I've had, seeing other friends that deal with that. And people get caught in that because they think that they're doing good, but it's actually detrimental when it comes from an unhealed place. And so
Exactly.
yeah, that's a tricky one to navigate.
Yeah, it's something that in a previous episode with Adeline, it was like one of my first episodes. She told me like something about myself, which like I told you, I do struggle with it, which is people pleasing. She said that, whenever you're constantly pouring into everybody else's cup, but you're not pouring into your own, what kind of energy are you really giving them? And I think that's what opened my eyes. It's like if I'm always helping other people, but I'm not helping myself, am I really giving other people the energy that they deserve? Now, that doesn't
Yeah.
mean that what I'm doing is wrong. What that means is I need to pour into my own cup too. I need to take care of myself before I take care of anybody else. And that sounds selfish. Okay, fine. Then be selfish. Sometimes it's okay to be a little bit selfish because you've got to take care of yourself, you know? And I think that yeah, the mentality of like looking at people pleasing as something to fix, that's good. Because you can be nice and not be a people pleaser. You can be kind and generous and thoughtful and loving and not be a people pleaser. Because you're taking care of yourself and you're taking care of those around you. And I think
Yeah.
that's a really powerful combo, honestly.
Yeah, I did a video. Sometimes I'll do just like a one line quote that kind of hits hard. And one was just like, you can be a kind person with a kind heart and still say no. And I think people don't, if you hear that and you go, no, I can't, then you're a people pleaser and you gotta, work on that. Cause to the quote that you just said about like if you're pouring into everyone else's cup, but not yours, you eventually run dry. And one of my favorites is just like, you can't pour from an empty cup. So that takes that and flips it and goes, well, are you filling your cup as well? Because eventually you're going to run out, and then what do you do? Then you're just exhausted emotionally, and now you're not helping yourself or anybody. And so, yeah, taking that time to fill your own cup is so vital.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of filling into your own cup, I'm hopeful that you're doing the same thing for yourself. You said that you enjoy writing. I know you said that not a lot of people read nowadays, but I know people listen to audiobooks. I have a couple of books that I'm hopeful to publish, and I was thinking about posting them as audiobooks. Have you ever thought about doing that, like writing something and posting it as an audiobook?
No, actually, I haven't, because like I'm a big bookworm, so like for me, books are a physical entity, and I don't listen to audiobooks, so I don't give that enough credit. So thank you for
No, no,
bringing that
no.
up as an option, because that's totally valid.
I don't want to like tell you what to do or anything. I just I just figured like, hey, like maybe this is something that you might be interested in. Because honestly, it's not something that I've ever thought about either. My bookshelf is full of physical copies of books. I don't really like the audiobooks and stuff. But it's what people do nowadays. They're driving home from work, they're listening to a podcast or they're listening to an audiobook. And it's just kind of what happens. Nobody really. It is unfortunate that nobody really sits down and reads anymore. Um, because man, like just sitting down and reading, it's so calming, it's so peaceful, and I love it so much. But it's okay. Like people just want to listen to stuff. That's all right. It still keeps the brain moving. Um, with your writing, with your dreams with that, I'm sure you've thought about picking the pencil back up, right? Picking the pen back up. What has kept you from doing that? Just
Um,
the fear of
I-
like people not really reading it?
yeah, I think it's a mix of like apprehension and laziness. But I think this has been something by getting out of my comfort zone and starting to make short form content that is along the lines of the message that I want to put out there. Um, Almost immediately, as soon as I got out of my own way and started making these videos, it invigorated that in every other aspect. I think at first I was deterred by the fact of like, no one's going to read this. There's already a million blogs, and like people do prefer audiobooks or podcasts or short form content or any of that. And so I like was just convincing myself like, no, you don't even have to put in that effort. And then I was like, well, even if I do put in the effort, how am I going to get people to look at this stuff? And like I said earlier, everything just boiled down to you need a social media presence in some form. And if you want to help people, just start making these videos. And by doing that, which was the thing that I didn't want to do the most, it reinvigorated and inspired to want to pick up the pencil or start typing or take the action towards the thing that I want to do, which was a huge lesson in and of itself. Was just like I think when it comes to like creative endeavors and stuff, we tend to like forecast our vision to be the ideal situation. And one of my favorite quotes I heard about like just creating anything was, when you want to start creating, it's because you have good taste. But when you start creating, your product doesn't match your taste. And so it becomes discouraging. But if you
Mm-hmm.
keep working on it, eventually your product is going to match your taste. And then you are where you want to be as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that can, like, myself included, even as I sit here and say these words, it can be so discouraging because you sit and write and you're like, well, this isn't as elegant as, like for me, I like self help. I want to write to help. And it's like, I read like Brene Brown or like people like that who have been doing this for years. They're professionals at it. And then you're like, oh man, she gets the message across so much better than I could. Why am I even writing? And just getting
Yeah.
in the way with that. And um, but the important part is just you just keep going. You just
You,
keep chipping away at it, and eventually
Mhm.
you're going to get good. But a lot of people will stop themselves because they're not good right away. But how do
Mhm.
you think the people who are good got good? You know?
Right. No, exactly. I love every bit of that. Yeah, and like I said before, comparison is the thief of joy. It really is. Whenever you
Mhm.
compare yourself to someone else, and it's so easy to do. Like I listen to a million podcasts a day, and I'm just like listening to them, and I'm like, man, like these guys must get like a million listeners, whatever. Like I can't wait till my podcast does that. But the thing is like, yeah, comparing yourself to others, it can be the thief of joy, and you are going to be your biggest critic. But it's the painting that you create isn't beautiful because it looks like someone else's, or it's perfect to your degree. It's beautiful because it has your imperfect brushstroke. That is why it's beautiful, because there's nobody else like you, Steven. There's just one you, and your brushstroke is unlike anybody else's. AI can't even recreate that. The words that you speak into the universe, there's only one voice like yours, and it's a beautiful voice, and the world deserves to hear it. Not because it sounds like some other rich, famous person, or because it's a perfect insignia of what you want it to be, but because it is yours. It is 100% authentically yours. And I think that it's like riding a bike. Whenever you ride a bike, you hop on. If you fall off the bike, are you just gonna give up riding the bike? Well, unless you're my ex-girlfriend, who literally I bought her a $200 bike. She fell off of it, never rode the thing again. It's still in my mom's storage shed. Unless you're her, you're absolutely gonna get back on that bike and you're gonna try again and again and again and again and again. You're gonna bump off the training wheels and you're gonna keep trying. And that's the beautiful thing about anything in the creative genre or really anything out there. It's not the ability to be perfect as quickly as possible, but the ability to ride your way through the imperfections. Okay? It's like and that's really what pushes me. Like whenever I look at our analytics for the podcast, it looks like a heartbeat. It's up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up
Mhm.
and down. But that's the beauty of it. My podcast has a pulse, and that means it's alive. And that's the way I see success and failure. It's a heartbeat. You're going to have your ups and downs. You're going to have your stagnation, and it's beautiful to see. It's beautiful to like go, "Oh, we had our up and then we had our down and then we had our up, and now we're kind of down and we've been down for a little bit, but that's okay." I remember there was a point in time where for like a whole like month, we had nothing. It was completely blank. And I was like, yo, this sucks. Like I'm not getting any new followers. There's no hours of consumption. My analytics look like I'm flatlining. And then December hit and then we're going up again. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna stop looking at the analytics because if I keep looking at the analytics, like yeah, the one thing that I do is I want to know what works and what doesn't work for sure. But if I'm saying, oh, let me look at the analytics because if I'm not doing well, I'm going to be discouraged, then it's not really worth it, you know? Because we're learning and we're growing and we're catching up to ourselves. As we continue to age, we're catching up to ourselves. We're becoming who we're meant to become. And it's something that you mentioned earlier where you were telling me like, "Hey, things that, I did in Oklahoma, they built up to who I am now." Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. People ask me all the time like, "Oh, Chris, do you regret anything in Oklahoma? Do you regret, you know, I was with this girl. Her name was Caitlin. I was with her for like 4 years, and we broke up right before I met another girl and got married like an idiot and all that stuff. Everything happens for a reason. People ask me, Chris, do you regret the 4 years with that girl where you spent a whole lot of money and you were moving from city to city to city, all because she wanted to and like all this stuff? No, I don't, because that created who I am today. You know what I mean? Like everything happens for a reason. And I might be
Yep.
delusional for finding purpose in so much, but I really am thankful for every speed bump, every every scratch, every bruise, because it's created exactly who I am, and that's what goes into my creative prowess. I if you would have asked me 5 years ago, "Hey Chris, how's it going to feel to be on a podcast and to be motivating to people and to talk to people for hours on end?" I would look at you and be like, I'm not doing that. That sounds awful." To put my voice out there, I was not confident. I did not believe in my voice, and I was still doing auditions and I was still putting myself out there for sure, but it was the very beginnings of it. My dream, my goal isn't even, well, obviously I have a dream with the podcast, but it's my goal is acting. I want to be an actor. I want to be a voice actor. But it's like that's where it all started. And who knows, I might be baking cakes in 5 years, but if it's all part of the journey, it's all part of the story.
Yeah.
I might change, my dream might change, But what matters is that we see our growth, we celebrate our wins, and we understand that we don't have to be like other people. We just have to be like us, And we don't have to be
Yeah.
perfect. We're beautiful because we are imperfect.
Yeah, and I think even like we used to, we have our aspirations and our ideals and all of that, but you also have to be adaptable to life and the situation and like grow with the changes that happen. And I mean, I agree with you 1,000%. Everything happens for a reason. I have it tattooed on my chest that says everything happens for a reason. And like I joke that I've lived four different lives in the point where I'm at now, where I was like, just a normal teenage kid playing sports, high school. And then I was in a band and I was going to be a rock star. And then that fell apart. And then I did stand up comedy for like almost 10 years on a very amateur level. And then now I live very humbly in the country and I'm just loving like the simple life, and I've started this TikTok and social media journey, and all of those have been huge aspirations that I've attempted. And because I had the courage to attempt them, and I don't have a Netflix special, I never got a record deal with my band, like none of those things happened, but I have had these beautiful experiences where my band played a show and people knew our songs and they were like jumping on top of each other and singing along. Or I've made a packed comedy club belly laugh, which is the best feeling. And then even now, like I've had some in my short time with these TikToks. I mean, you invited me to be on your podcast. I've had people reach out. One guy asked me if I could be his therapist. Like other people have just said,
That's
you know, oh my God, I need, like I needed to hear this. You've really made a difference. And just off of something that I said. And so it's it's more about you got to do what you're passionate about. And whether you I think something another thing that gets in our way is that idea of like, well, if I'm not going to make it monetarily, or I'm not going to be the epitome of success in this field, why would I even try? And I'm here to just tell anybody that like I said, never had a record deal, had a room full of people singing passionately along, never got a Netflix special, never even got on tour, but made a room full of people laugh. And those are experiences that I'll carry with me for the rest of my life, and those are successes that I've had outside of our standard of success in like the creative field.
No, absolutely. And that's the thing is I've heard a lot of people say it and I've said it too. Like what's the point in continuing to do this and staying consistent, staying disciplined and following a routine if I'm not going to make it monetarily. This isn't going to pay my bills. The way I see it is my job is a resource that helps me pay for my dreams. And
Hmm.
yeah, someday my dreams might kick off. Maybe I'll get a call from a director and I go to a theater or I get a nice contract or something. But really, I'm doing something that I love and I'm pursuing my dreams and my goals and I'm able to sit here and have wonderful conversations like with you and hopefully inspire people. And honestly, I can say that I already feel like the podcast is a success because of how it's remained consistent, but also it's like what you said. Whenever you inspire people, like people come to you and they're like, "Oh, I heard what you said, and it really encouraged me." I think it was my second or my third episode. It was the episode I want to say, was it the one that I think it was called "I Crashed Nova," but I could be wrong. I think that was one of my later episodes. Um, there was an episode where I talked about perfectionism, and I said to be human, or I said for everybody who wants to be perfect, you have to understand to be human is to be imperfect. So to be perfect, to be human, you have to be perfectly imperfect. I don't know. It was this confusing jarble of words, but basically, you have to be imperfect to be perfect. That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of humanity is being imperfect. And somebody heard that. It was a my friend's kid heard that, and he's like, I don't even know how old he is, but he's younger, and yeah, apparently he was changed by that. He was like, "Oh, I never saw it that way. Like I'm always trying to be perfect. I'm always trying to be better than what I am, and now I see it in a new lens." Because every failure, this is something that I say that I might as well have tattooed on my chest. Failure is a necessary milestone on the pathway to success. It really is. Every single failure, every, oh, I wish I would have, every, oh, well, I messed up, every mistake is a necessary milestone. It is necessary while you're on your pursuit towards success. And we're all climbing our own mountain. This is another analogy that I love. We're all climbing our own mountain. There's going to be peaks, valleys, and summits. And yeah, we're going to see other people climbing their mountains too. And everybody's going to have their own problems and their own journey and their own accomplishments. And it's important for us not to discourage them. It's important for us to not look back and go, oh, well, I'm better than you. Because not only are we damaging the progress on our own mountain, but we're also pushing other people's down theirs as well. And what's powerful is if we can uplift each other. We can say that, hey, our peaks, valleys, and summits, your peaks, valleys, and summits, Stephen, versus mine, are no more or less valuable than the other, you know?
Right.
And they're achievements, they're moments to look back and say, hey, this is where I am, this is where I've been, this is where I'm going. And while we're climbing this mountain of success and we get rocks and stones thrown at us, if we take those rocks and stones and we build a cobblestone staircase up the path to the top of the mountain to success, then anytime somebody looks at us and goes, oh, well, Stephen had it easy, Chris had it easy. Oh, we can look back at the cobblestone staircase that we created with every problem and every mistake that life threw at us and go, I've built this journey myself. And you just keep moving forward, keep walking forward, which is something that you said earlier as well. And yeah, I think that's incredible, honestly. And to live a life where you're like, I might not make it to be a millionaire in my field, but I can be 100% authentically myself. I can put
Yeah.
my creations out there.
Yeah. A couple, like, to your point of comparison being the thief of joy, and like social media, which is ironic because like we both are having doing social media, but that was part of my drive to create the type of content that I'm currently doing, was because one of my favorite things is social media is it's a bunch of people's highlight reels, and you can't get caught comparing your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reels. And I think that people just look at social media and go, that guy's got 2 million followers. And it's like, yeah, you don't know the work that he put in to get those 2 million followers. You don't know what his life was like before that to find the inspiration. Like you, if you make it as a podcaster or a voice actor or whatever, and people go, oh, you're an overnight success, and they have no idea about that terrifying move you made all alone from Oklahoma to New York. And everybody is on their own imperfect journey of highs and lows. Even the most successful people, from a business perspective, Amazon, regardless of your opinion of them, his company wasn't profitable for like the first 10 years or something that they started. So even that, we can look at Amazon and go, oh, they're
Mm-hmm.
evil, but it's still just a guy who started a business and started the right business for himself. But we don't know what his journey was like. And then to like, maybe I won't be a millionaire, and that is a deterrent. But Dave Chappelle had a good thing about that as a comedian, where when he was starting out, his dad was like, well, you're never going to make it, you're never going to be famous. And he was like, yeah, but what if, and this was in the 90s, so he was like, what if I made a teacher's salary but I was doing stand-up comedy? What if I made $30,000 a year but I was doing stand-up comedy? That would be enough. And that blew my mind, from a perspective sake of just like, yeah, we do deter ourselves because, and I mean, ironically, now Dave Chappelle is one of the biggest comedians
Mm.
ever, but
Yeah.
it's because his approach was that of a humble person going, I don't care if I'm selling out arenas, I just want to pay my bills doing what I love. And if I can do that, then I'm a success. And it was that mentality that actually made him such a success. Same with Jeff Bezos. Dude was like, I don't care if my company's not profitable. I have a vision. And that was one of the things that helped me early on. Of some TikTok coach posted a video about vision over views. And that's the most important thing to get you going, is just stick. If you have a solid vision of what you're trying to accomplish and you put that over everything, the views will come, the traffic will come, the whatever you're looking for. And I think all of that ties together. And if you can just remain true to your why behind what you're doing, you will find success, whether it is, you know, millions of dollars in sold out arenas, or just awesome experiences that you wouldn't have had if you didn't try to begin with.
Oh, every word of that. Gorgeous. I love it so much. No, absolutely. Listen, that is the trick right there. Vision over views. Because that's
Hmm.
that's exactly what this podcast is. I mean, most people like they're like, "Oh, like who's this guy like messaging me on TikTok about like hopping on his podcast?" And I'm like, "Hey, how's it going?" Like this is and sometimes I feel like I might come off a little heavy because I'm like, I send this whole like essay of like, yeah, man, like I've talked to composers, I've talked to D&D map artists, I've talked to self-published authors, sound healers, therapists, all kinds of people, and I want to talk to you too. And they're just like, yeah, I draw pictures of animals on TikTok. I don't know if I fit this like regime. And I'm just like, no, 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 you're great. Like, let's talk. And I think that really having the vision is really what's helped this podcast. It really is. Like I don't want to like always talk about my podcast on my podcast, but really just like with me ordering the business cards and pumping them out to like a dozen different states across the United States and even Canada and England and pushing them out to Indonesia and then having everybody have a bumper stickers. I've got friends in Ohio, Kentucky, Oklahoma, Texas, California, Nevada, Utah, Montana, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Florida, all that have, and New York, obviously, and that all have little bumper stickers with the QR code that goes to my podcast for all platforms that literally says, give your dreams a voice. And are people going to scan that in traffic? I really hope so. But if not, that's okay because the vision is there. And that's what's important. If you go in, right? You go in and you're not cocky. You're not an egomaniac. You're humble with it. You're humble with a vision. Put that on a t-shirt. Humble with a vision. And you walk in and you're like, this is what I want. This is my dream. This is my goal. And you're like, I really want to inspire the youth. I want to motivate people. I want to convince people to stop being a people pleaser. And maybe through that, I'll be able to start writing and encourage more people through my writing as well, because there's still an audience for writing. And honestly, I think you've got so much wisdom in that little knocker of yours, and it's incredible. I love it. And I want to read one of your books. If you ever publish a book, I hope you'll let me know so I can go order one. Because honestly, like you're inspiring me with the things you're saying. Like this is incredible. You know, I feel like we're two inspired minds working off of one another, and it's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's awesome. That's the other thing about well, recently Jack White got inducted into the Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with the white stripes. And he had a thing that I thought was really cool where he was like he was encouraging musicians, but it applies to anybody with a creative idea. And he was like, get out there, get in the garage, get obsessed with something and start creating because we all want to take part in what you are working on. And I just thought it still gives me chills because it's such a beautiful, encouraging statement, even coming from a rock star who is at the peak of his career being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And he's just talking to everybody and saying, we want to take part in your creation. And I think when we stifle our own creativity, um, we're doing ourselves a disservice, but we're also doing other people a disservice because how are the people who need your product, and I don't like using the word product, but for lack of better terms, how are the people who need your creation able to find your creation if you never create it and put it out there? And I think it's a little bit selfish when we go, oh, nobody's going to like what I have to say. Like that's egotistical, even though you're like putting yourself down. It is still egotistical to think I'm not good enough. And it's like, who cares? Just create it. Just put it out there and get over yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and I, again, with that twisted people pleasing's good because it's people pleasing, but I'm not taking care of myself. So it's bad. Or I'm not good enough being egotistical. Like these are complex thought patterns that people just kind of they hide behind it. They use them as crutches so that they don't have to like make themselves uncomfortable. And I
Mhm.
think that's, the first step towards being a creative and doing anything is being uncomfortable.
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. You have to be uncomfortable. And it sucks. You have to throw yourself out there. But, and it's something that Dina said. This is Dina in her composing episode. She said that, whenever you put, because I asked her, I was like, how do you go out there and just, she does street performing and then she performs at weddings. She plays the violin, piano, all sorts. And I was like, how do you just go out there every day? Like, what was it like the first time? She goes, well, I had this mentality of, you know, either one, you don't show up and you get no results, or you do show up and potentially get results. But if you never show up, you're that's a definite zero. But if you do show up, it's probably not going to be a zero. It's going to be better than zero. And I love that. And to play off of what she said, honestly, I think it's a success because you showed up. I mean, like
Hmm.
like you said, most people don't want to because they're like, oh well, who's going to find my content? Who's going to listen to me? Well, that's the thing is you're already, excuse me, goodness, my voice. You're already winning. You're already succeeding because you're showing up, and most people don't. Most people don't show up. Most people don't go, "Hey, let me put myself out there." So I think that's incredibly encouraging. Because yeah, you're saying, "Okay, I'm gonna set myself aside." The pride that I may have, the ego that I may have, or lack thereof, and I'm gonna put myself out there. It's gonna be uncomfortable, but I'm gonna do it. Like you sat with yourself for 2 hours before posting a video. That's incredible. Most people would
Yeah.
sit with themselves for 2 minutes and they'd be like, "Ah, I'm not doing that. I'm gonna go order Taco Bell and watch YouTube." Like, no, you sat with yourself for 2 hours and you're like, "No, I'm doing this." Whenever before I moved to New York, I don't even know. I sat with myself. I don't even know how long, but I did ask those questions of like, what if I go to New York and I fail? What if I mess up? What if I fuck up? But you know what I say now that I'm doing okay? I say, well, if I can come to New York with nothing but $1,000 and a bag of clothes, then I can do this. I can do that. I can do this. I can publish my first book. I can go do another open mic night. I can go do another audition. I can go work another couple extra hours at work. You know, it eliminates once you step out of your comfort zone, that really becomes your armor. Because if you can step out of your comfort zone and fight towards whatever it is that you're passionate about, you can do anything. You are
Yeah.
unstoppable,
Yeah,
And it's
I have a it's literally just a piece of paper with scribbles on it on my desk. I'm looking at it right now and it just says fuck your feelings, just do the damn thing. And like I have to remind myself all the time, because it's so easy to get caught up in that. Like what if I oh this is going to hurt. Oh, this is going to uncomfortable. I sat with myself for 2 hours and then I made a terrible video. It's like it's my one of my friends who I didn't tell anybody that I was going to start posting it, but it was my best friend and he was like, "Oh man, your content increased tenfold very fast." And but those first few videos, I sat there and overthought it for hours and then made a bad video, and so like even that just and then that didn't stop me, and so yeah, you got to just do it,
Mhm.
and I love cliche sayings that have stood the test of time, and a lot of people scoff at them because everybody says it, but they're so true. And to like the point of what we're talking about right now is, you missed 100% of the shots you don't take, and that's some people say that all the time. It's on gym, you know, it's in high school gyms and coaches say it and people are like, yeah, yeah, but it's so true.
Yeah, and then number one, I'm sure I had a piece of paper with something scribbled on it, and the thing that really pushed me through everything I've gone through is no one's coming to save you. That's the one
Hmm.
saying that's really pushed me. It's what pushes me at the gym. It's what pushes me through auditions, open mic nights, terrible work shifts that I hate. I mean, I don't want to date this episode, but it's New Year's Eve and I have to work 3 to midnight. That sucks. I'm going to be
Yeah.
spending New Year's Eve at work. That sucks. but it's okay. It all works out in the end, and we keep pushing, we keep moving forward, and yeah, it's no one's coming to save you. You've got to keep moving and keep going. And I love that vision. I love your voice, and I'm glad that you've made a lot of progress with your TikTok and with your social media. And honestly, I just hope it blossoms. I hope it grows extravagantly, and yeah, I think that what Dina said, and you're saying as well, of like, yeah, you miss all the shots you don't take. It's either 0% or it's some percentage between 1% and 100%. But it's really up to you. Either 1 to 100 or 0. And
Yep.
really, there's no other option. There's no third option. You can't, halfway yourself and go, oh, well, what if I step between the two lines? Like sometimes I try and sometimes I don't. It's like, okay, that's fine. If you need to rest, if you need to take your time with things, be steady for sure. But I don't know. I don't think you like if you're always 0%. That's something that I pushed on myself. Maybe I was a little tough on myself. Maybe I was a little rough on myself. But yeah, no one's coming to save me. I have to save myself. I have to be the one to push for my goals and push for my dreams and push myself at the gym and all of that. And I think that what's kind of come out of that for me is I've realized through all of it that I need to start taking care of myself more. And pushing really hard is great, but if you're not taking care of yourself, you're going to burn out really quickly. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that
Yeah.
that is.
I
Go ahead.
really embraced that this year. Like, I think it hit me probably like 4 or 5 months ago of nobody's coming to save you. And I think, that took, like, you're fortunate you said you're 10 years younger than me. And so that's awesome that you're like embracing this stuff. And it has been encouraging. Somebody even commented on one of my TikToks and they were like, I'm 17 years old and I look for stuff like this to learn from people who have gone before me. And it just made me so excited to see that, like, a 17-year-old, because especially I'm 37, so like I talk to teenagers and it's like you're speaking another language, and just the way they move and the way they operate, and like even I see stuff about like bed rotting is a popular thing amongst like 18 to 21-year-olds, and that's just so discouraging. And then you meet a 17-year-old who's like, I'm out here actively seeking good information because nobody's coming to save you, and the sooner that you can embrace that and understand that, the better off you're going to be. And I think something I've noticed, and it's been stark since the COVID pandemic, and I mean, now we're almost 6 years removed, um, and just the current,
Oh
social,
God, that makes me
political,
feel
all of
so
that
old.
stuff. I know, right? It feels like
Holy crap.
COVID was just a year ago.
Oh my
But
God.
when, like, I think the combination of that, and it's taken society years to unravel from, because for like 2 months we all thought we were going to die, and so that was
Hmm.
crazy. It's like an existential crisis on a global level, and we were all shook from that. And then, it's been rocky, and the current social or political climate is just kind of unsettling no matter what side you're on. And I think a lot of people are realizing, like, dude, I need to get my shit together. Like, nobody's
Hmm.
coming to save me, things are going crazy. And I've noticed that, like, people have fallen into two camps. And some people have just kind of become like doom and gloom, everything sucks, there's no hope. But a lot of people post COVID went, I need to make some changes. I need to do good. I need to be a better version of myself. And it's just kind of like, that's what an existential crisis will do to you. It'll either make you give up or it'll make you buck up. And I think, like, I'm glad to be meeting people who are interested in, trying to better themselves. And so, yeah, that's been awesome.
No, yeah, no, exactly. And it's something that you were talking about that, like, I think it was either, before we recorded or maybe at the beginning of the episode. But yeah, like, some people age quicker than others. Some people like you might be 30 or 40, but really you feel like you've lived like 8 lifetimes. You're like 800 years old, you feel like. And there are
Hmm.
some people like that. And I feel like that's what, like, whenever you're in your 20s especially, you do kind of have this like metamorphosis moment where you're like, you know what? Like I need to be better. And I think it's awesome that, younger people are like pushing into that. Like 17-year-old kids are like pushing into that. They're like, hey, I want to be better than what I am today. I want to learn. I want to, because they see everybody else in their generation the same way I see everybody else in my generation. I'm like, I think we can do better than this. I think I can do better. I'm not saying I want to be better than everybody, but I'm saying that maybe I can try to motivate the world, inspire the world, and push for my goals, push for my dreams, be better, not just for me, but for, if someday I ever have kids, or if I'm ever able to meet my niece and nephew, or inspire the next generation, I have to be better for them. Is kind of like what I think as well. And it is awesome to see different people from different generations all kind of come together as well and say, like this is what I want to do. I want to be better. You know,
Hmm.
and I think it's awesome. Most of my audience is like in their 20s, but it's incredible whenever I get the moment to sit with someone who's older and has listened to one of my podcast episodes or has sat down with me and been like, this was incredible to see and it's inspiring. Because I feel like a lot of people that are in their 30s and even 40s and 50s, pushing 60s, they look down, not look down, but they look back at the younger generations and they're kind of discouraged because they're like, oh, well, nobody really cares. Nobody's really pushing themselves. Nobody's really going for their goals or their dreams. So it can be encouraging for them to see, like, even people as young as you or as young as me or even younger than us, you know, we're trying to be better. We're trying to push for a better world, you know? And the way that we're doing it, the way that we're changing the world is to inspire it, to encourage it, to motivate it. And honestly, I think that, for you and I, our superpower is our voice and our
Hmm.
ability to deliver it. And it's something that I had to learn a long time ago is, I was very, very shy. I was an introvert. I was that emo kid who always wore black in high school. I didn't talk to anybody. I had no friends. And it was through the incessant bullying, friendly bullying of my best friends who were just like, you got to start a podcast, you got to go do acting, go do voice acting, go do this, go do that. And it was those few people that really spoke that out to me. And that's whenever I got older, like obviously now especially, and I'm like, I want to be that voice for other people. I want to be that motivator for other people. The voice that's incessant, the voice that's constantly telling you, you're built for more than this. You're powerful. You're beautiful. Your brushstroke is yours alone. The world deserves your signature. The world deserves to hear what you have to say and to see what you have to create. And that's what's been
Absolutely.
inspiring for me. And hearing your videos and hearing your story has been encouraging as well.
Yeah, you have a very eloquent way of putting it. I saw one of your TikToks, like I think you were reading a poem that you had wrote, and it was beautiful. And so like you're well on the way to, I mean, you're already a success because you've done the things you've done. You've started the podcast, you've posted the content, you've put yourself out there. You moved to New York to pursue your dreams. Like that's already just such a success. And um yeah, I something that keeps me humble and trying and like the butterfly effect, and you never know what kind of impact that you're going to have on somebody. And if you can change one life for the better with your influence, then anything after that is uh, a bonus. And I know of one. I had an experience when I was 21, and it's just it's so enlightening to that fact because you don't realize what effect you may have on people. And when I was 22, I worked at a Starbucks, and I worked with this girl, and unbeknownst to me, she was struggling with like her sexuality and like coming out as a gay woman. And she just one day we were closing up the store and me and this guy were working and I was mopping the floor, and she just stopped, and you could like her voice was shaking, and she was like, "Steven, Jay, I'm gay." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And I just kept mopping the floor like because it was really just nothing. Like it didn't matter to me. I liked her regardless. It had zero effect on my opinion of her. And she, like, to this day, almost 20 years later, she talks about how that moment was just one of the most profound things. And it literally changed her life. And now she's living her dream. Like, she wanted to get a PhD and study dairy cows. And that's exactly what she's doing. But she had to get over this hurdle of accepting herself for who she was. And it's so ironic, or it's just so funny to me that the life-changing effect that I had on her was from a complete non-reaction. And my non-reaction of like, yeah, that's no big deal, um, changed her life. And like literally she was just like, oh yeah, that doesn't matter. Okay, cool. I can be who I'm supposed to be. And now she's living her dream. And I think I just love that situation. I'm honored that I was able to be such like a profound figure in her life, but it's the fact that I didn't react at all set her
It was just like,
free.
yeah, cool. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I think, so especially if you're intentionally out there spreading kindness, sharing wisdom, you never know who that's going to affect. You could save somebody's life by just wishing them to have a good day, by being
Oh,
kind
absolutely.
when maybe you could have justifiably been frustrated, and just,
Mhm.
yeah, always choosing that positivity and just genuine. And so, yeah, I think sharing our voice, sharing our wisdom, it's being generous in a way, like the quote of the person who plants the seed knowing that they'll never sit in the shade of their tree. Those are the people who are really living. um I think that that's so true, and that's truly a humble approach to just putting it out there and hoping that it makes a difference, and doing it because that's what needs to be done.
Yeah. That's an amazing, amazing, amazing point. Thank you so much. Um, well, I appreciate your time. I don't know if you have any questions or anything else you want to talk about, but I think that's a great point to leave on, honestly.
Yeah, no, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you reaching out. Again, I'm new to this, and we had talked about like follower count and all of that stuff, but like I have no idea what I'm doing with social media, but I knew that I needed to make a presence. So um I remember when you reached out, I was just like, "Oh shit, this guy wants me to be on his podcast." That's awesome. So you reaching out encouraged me, and it sounds like some of the stuff I'm posting is encouraging you, and I'm honored to have met you, to cross your path. And yeah, I think what you're doing is awesome, and you're
Oh,
already
yeah.
a huge success just by having taken the steps you've taken.
Hey there, this is friend of the show, Anthony Ziello, and I just wanted to say thanks for stepping into the walk-in today. If this episode spoke to you, go ahead and follow the show, and catch us every Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern. You can find the walk-in on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube Podcasts, pretty much anywhere you listen. And if you want to hang with our community, come join the Discord. We'd love to have you there. A huge shout out to the Podmatch community for having us with them. Their support for dreamers is unmatched. Until next time, take a breath, stay inspired, and as always, we'll walk together again next week.